You Booked It, episode 108. Hey, entertainers and performers of the world. I'm your host, Dane Reese, and welcome to You Booked It, where I chat with inspiring entertainment professionals 7 days a week. By digging into their journey, we're going to discover everything you need to do to have a successful entertainment career. You know, because training usually skips that part about how to actually make your skills work for you in the real world. Fellow entertainers, my drive here at You Booked It is to share the inspiring and incredible journeys of successful entertainment professionals. We're here to support your journey. So go to youbookeditpodcast.com and join the You Booked It email community, where we dig deep into truly actionable things you can be doing right now to book that next audition, submission, or gig. If you enjoy this free podcast, please show your support and search for You Booked It on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app, where you can subscribe so you don't miss an episode, leave a rating, and review. And now, let's do this. Okay, let's get started. I am excited to introduce my guest today, Kelly O. Are you ready for this, Kelly?
I am. Hi, Dane.
Hey, Kelly grew up in Portland, Maine, where an early love for dance turned into focused ballet training. She studied with Portland Ballet, American Ballet Theater, the Washington Ballet, and Pittsburgh Ballet Theater before working with Omaha Theater Ballet and the Roxy Ballet. Embracing massive change, Kelly then moved to Las Vegas to take a job with the world-renowned Jubilee, where she learned the ropes as a bona fide Las Vegas showgirl. From there, Kelly has performed in several Las Vegas productions, including Jerry Mitchell's Peep Show, Fantasy, Chris Angel's The Supernaturalists, The Matt Goss Show, Purple Rain, and Crazy Girls. At the legendary Caesar's Palace, Kelly has also had the honor of playing the role of Cleopatra, welcoming guests throughout the property. She also has extensive experience as a go-go dancer in the hottest nightclubs in Las Vegas. Kelly can be seen as a dancer in the music videos for CeeLo Green's I Want You and The Weeknd's Earned It. Excited to start a new chapter of her life, Kelly and her husband Simon are moving to Cyprus later this year. Kelly, that is a quick intro of who you are and what you've done, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself? Fill in the gaps, who you are, and a little bit more about what you do as a professional in the entertainment industry.
I live here in downtown Las Vegas. I've been here for 10 years. And obviously, when we give our resume and our highlight reel, we list the shows. But the nitty gritty for a lot of us, specifically Vegas, and I would wager New York City entertainers as well, is we fill in a lot of our income with gig work. So like we mentioned go-go dancing, myself and all of the dancers and performers in town, at least prior to the pandemic, were constantly doing gigs. And that was a huge part of our income and a really great opportunity for us. So those can be little production shows that are just a one-off for an event, or modeling, or being a showgirl, taking pictures, all of that in addition to the production shows that we do. So that's a big part of being a performer here.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is what I love about the Las Vegas market, because Vegas allows you to really be a professional entertainer where all you have to do is entertainment stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly.
There's so much work available, and you really can have that freelance life and the show life all in one. I think it's an incredible market as compared to my experience with some other markets.
Yeah, I agree. And it gives you a lot more opportunity and more opportunity for income, which is just great.
Sure.
At least before the pandemic, of course.
Of course, everything in reference to making income is pre-COVID, especially with our industry. All right, let's move on to this next section here. And Kelly, look, I'm a sucker for a good quote. What is your favorite quote you'd like to share with everyone?
I don't have a favorite quote, but I do have a quote that I think is really apropos for this moment. And that is that life is what happens when you're busy making other plans. And that might even sound a little bit trite, but I think that obviously that applies to what's going on. Nobody expected to have the shutdown. Nobody expected for all these shows to close. And it's affected our industry greatly. So it's how you respond to that, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And are you able to dig into kind of how you're responding to this time?
Yes. For me personally, I'm a little bit different because I just had double jaw surgery. So I apologize if I sound a little bit lispy or funny in my speech. But this was a long time coming leading up to that. I actually had to get wire braces put on my teeth, which made my ability to perform very limited. There's not a lot of shows and people that will put you on stage with giant wire braces on your teeth. So I was already kind of winding down my performance career, at least momentarily. And then when the pandemic happened, that just continued. So I had started a YouTube channel and I just put my focus into that. And I put my focus into my yoga practice. So that's for me personally. I know some people have been doing really great things with actually dancing or singing or what it is. But for me, I was already transitioning into something a little bit different, at least for the time being. So that's what I've been working on.
Ah, very cool. And let's get into this next section here. And Kelly, of course, you are an entertainer. I'm an entertainer, and I think you do
Mhm.
agree that this industry can be one of the most subjective, brutally honest, personally emotional industries either of us have probably ever experienced. And
Yes.
you know as well as I that in order to create and have a successful career in this industry like you're having now takes a lot of dedication and hard work. And while, yeah, there is an outrageous amount of fun and excitement doing what we do, there are also our fair share of obstacles, challenges, and failures that we are going to experience and we're going to have to move forward through. So tell us,
Yeah.
what is one key challenge, obstacle, or failure you've experienced in your career, and how did you come out the other side better because of it?
Wow, what a great question. I think, first of all, I just want to commend you because I feel like in our industry, a lot of people only want to show everything as like rosy and perfect and they don't want to talk about the problems. And yeah, our industry's glamorous, it's fun. We're so lucky to do what we do, but it's not perfect and there are issues. In my career, and I like to talk about this because I know there's so many young dancers coming up
Hmm.
that aren't really necessarily getting this counseling, but in my career personally, and this doesn't happen to everybody, but I had more than a few run-ins with difficult bosses, should you say, or I could say, or people that I ended up working for that were less than solid characters. You know what I'm saying? So
Yes.
anytime in this industry that you book a job, it's so exciting. Like you just getting that, yes, you got the job, you got the gig. That's a great feeling and you're so excited. But sometimes you book the job, you're so excited, and then it's not what you thought, or the person you're working for is abusive, or they are not, they're dishonest, or there's some sort of issue in that way. And I think that can be really challenging for performers because there's a bit of a scarcity complex and a sense of lack. And is this really, I can't walk away from this because I might not get another job, you know? And I
Yeah.
just think it's so important to have some self worth and stand up for yourself and don't hold on to a job where you're not being treated well just because you're scared of not booking another job or because the person you're working for has a popular public image or something like that. Like you need to do what's best for you. And if that means walking away from a job, that's what you need to do. Your mental health and your sanity, it's never okay to be mistreated. And in this industry, most of the time, there's no HR, you know, there's nobody you can go to. The person you have an issue with could be your boss, and that's that. So I think especially for young dancers that aren't getting this counseling, like just please know that you can always walk away and you don't have to put up with it.
Yes, I completely agree. And it is unfortunate that these things occasionally happen in our world. I mean,
Yeah,
they happen in every world, but like you said, a lot of times in our industry, there's not that HR department for you to go to. There's not that third party.
right.
And I like that you brought up the scarcity complex, is what you called it.
Mhm.
And I think that's spot on because us as entertainers, we always think that we need to take that job, that if we don't say yes, someone else is going to say yes, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that is a very true thing. That's a real thing. Someone will say yes to the job, but just having the job and saying yes, depending on the scenario and the situation, is not the end all and be all. If you've discovered, like you said, that it's not a great environment to be in, you have to take it upon yourself to leave that and trust that you're going to land on your feet because again, like you said, not worth sacrificing your mental health or any other parts of your integrity for something that is not somewhere that you feel comfortable.
Very well said. I feel like you just said it much better. But yeah, that's
Oh,
exactly it. Yeah.
wonderful. And let's move on to a time that I like to call your spotlight moment. That one moment in time you realized, yes, I am going to be an entertainer for a living, or maybe it was, yes, this is what I need to be doing as an entertainer. Tell us about that.
Mhm. That's an easy one for me. That was booking Jubilee. So I was a struggling, starving ballet dancer before I booked Jubilee. My only training was in ballet, which was just a matter of circumstance. I just wasn't really exposed to other dance forms.
Hmm.
And I was good enough to get to the professional level of ballet, but I wasn't good enough to really make a living. I'm 5'9", I'm curvy. I was very prone to injuries when I was in ballet. So I was really struggling. I wasn't making a living. And some friends had mentioned to me there's a show in Vegas. They love tall ballet dancers. You should audition. It's called Jubilee. I thought it was scandalous when I found out that it was topless. I was like, oh my goodness, but which is still funny now because I've done so many topless shows. But yeah, I just was intrigued and I looked into it more and it looked beautiful. So there was an audition in New York City, which was close to where I was, and I booked it. So that changed my life. And that's when I started making a living. That's when I learned that I wasn't maybe cut out for ballet, and this was actually a much better avenue for me to pursue. So yeah, that was it for me. That was a big turning point.
For sure. And it's great that you brought that up. You said, because of circumstance of life, I never really got exposed to other parts of this industry, right?
Mhm.
And
Right.
there's so much out there, even within, just the performance world, the genre or the category that you are performing in, even there's so many categories. And
Mhm.
if you're finding yourself not really jiving with one, you can sample some others because there's so much out there and you can move around very easily. And like you found, you discovered where you fit in this industry.
Mhm. Yep.
That's
And it
amazing.
was just a matter of circumstance, like you say. And I didn't know, like, it turns out that I need to be in a pair of heels and I need to be moving in a like kind of sexy way. Like I had no idea. I was trying to do pirouettes and piqué turns, and really it was like it came so the moment I tried to do this sort of Vegas style that I don't even know what we call it, this kind of Vegas thing, the moment I tried to do that just came so easily to me that I was like, oh, this is what I but you why would I have known that in a ballet school in Portland, Maine? I don't I
Yeah,
wouldn't.
of course.
It's interesting how we find our way. Yeah.
Totally agree. And I want to piggyback on that real quick and talk about your number one booked it moment. Walk us through that day, the auditions and callbacks, if they happen to be a part of it. What was going on in your life, and what about that moment makes it your favorite booked it moment?
Wow, that's a great question. For me, that would be the show Peep Show. And that show, it's a shame a lot of people don't remember it. It was a really great show. It's by Jerry Mitchell, who's a really famous choreographer and
Mm.
awesome guy. And he used to have a show here that was equity. It was like a Broadway spectacular with, fairy tales and sexiness. And it was a little bit topless and it had celebrities, it had everything. It was really great. I had given my notice at Jubilee because I just knew it was time to move on and I didn't have a job lined up. And I had auditioned for Peep Show when I first moved to town when I was still a bunhead, and I absolutely embarrassed myself. I went into audition with, I think my hair was in a bun. I think I was wearing a leotard. I think I actually remember contempt from the people running the audition, that they were just like, what is wrong with you? Why did you even show up? You know what I mean? Like, it was that bad. And so, of course, I got cut first round, and I was embarrassed that I even did that to myself. But then, fast forward maybe 3 years to knowing that I had already given my notice to leave Jubilee, and some friends mentioned, "Oh, you should come to the Peep Show audition with us." And I was like, "Oh man, I don't want to embarrass myself." And they're like, "No, no, no, you should come. It'll be fun." So I just forced myself to go for the class aspect of it and to be a better dancer, not knowing that I wouldn't, nothing would come of it because I had such a bad time in the past. But in those 3 years, I'd become a much better dancer, and I wasn't such a bunhead anymore, and I had learned how to move differently, and I got kept, and they narrowed it down, and I was one of the final people, and that was when they did second day callbacks. So then I had to go to the next day callback, and then I didn't get it that time. A couple months later, they have another audition, same thing. Gets asked to stay to the end, get a call back for the next day, make it all the way to the end, don't get the job. The fourth time I auditioned for the show, I finally booked it. And just
Oh,
from going from embarrassing myself, like one of the worst auditions of my life, to booking the show, a full-time equity contract with an outstanding world-renowned choreographer, that was definitely my booked it moment for sure.
oh, that's so cool. And I remember that show. I came to Vegas when that show was almost closing. And I remember going to it. It was so entertaining, so great. And then it's crazy, through the time of being in Vegas, you end up being friends with most of the people that were in that show. And it's so cool. That was a great production and a great theater as well to be in. Such a great room.
Yeah, it's sorely missed. It was just that everything Vegas was about. And I don't think they could afford to run it, unfortunately. It had a really high overhead.
Yeah.
But I think the public opinion on that show is that it was outstanding. That
Yep.
was
I
great.
completely agree. And let's take a moment to talk about the present. What projects are you working on now? What are you looking forward to? And it's a crazy time, right? We're amidst this global
Yeah.
pandemic. How do you see the entertainment industry moving forward in the next couple of years?
Where I'm at right now, I'm in a really strange kind of limbo situation because, as I mentioned earlier, I had braces and double jaw surgery. So that put my performance career on hold anyway. And now with the pandemic, everything's on hold. I've been focusing on my YouTube channel, at least up until before my surgery. And I'm just exploring that world of content creation and being your own kind of personal brand or public personality.
Hmm.
And also, as you mentioned, my husband and I are moving to Cyprus. So I've always been interested in performing in Europe. I don't know if that's going to be possible, but I'm definitely interested in pursuing that when we get there. I know there are some things in Cyprus, but I'm not really too familiar. So we'll see when we get there. And in terms of your question about how do I think the entertainment industry is going to change, I think that, like I mentioned, personal branding is only going to be more important. And I think that's a double edged sword because I think a lot of us are sick of social media and we hate having to push yourself out there and like be that person spamming everyone's Instagram. But I do think that the day of just being like a faceless dancer that doesn't have a personality, or not the dancers don't have personalities, but the kind of the like old school mindset of like you just listen, do what the choreographer tells you to and don't have an opinion. And I think that, and still, of course, be respectful to choreographers, but I think dancers are going to be known for their personalities and their public image and their personal branding. And it's going to be more than just how you do it at audition. And maybe
For
that depends on the job, but I think that might be how things change.
Yes, I completely agree. And first, I think when you go to Cyprus, I think you're going to actually find there's a lot of opportunity in Europe. There's so many things happening in Germany and in Spain. And even if you pop over to Abu Dhabi, Dubai, and stuff, there are so many great things happening in that part of the world. So I think you're going to be super solid there. But as far as the personal branding, it's a lot of work to personally brand ourselves all the time. But unfortunately, that is the reality of what this world has become with social media, that you really do have to embrace this social media world and treat your social media as a running resume.
Yep, I agree.
Great. And let's move on to one of my favorite sections in the interview. I call it the Grease Lightning Round. I'm going to ask you a handful of questions. I want you to answer them as quickly and concisely as possible, one after another. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Great. First question. What was the one thing holding you back from committing to a career as an entertainer?
I always knew I wanted to be a dancer, but I didn't realize I was practicing the wrong form of dance. I was doing ballet and it wasn't right for me. So once I figured that out, everything fell into place.
And the second question. What is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
What you feel on the inside shows on the outside. So if you feel the joy and the presence in what you were doing, it will radiate from you and it will make you stand out as a performer.
Totally true. And the third question, what is something that is working for you right now? Or if you'd like to go pre-COVID, what was working for you before our industry went on pause?
Hot yoga. I can't live without hot yoga.
And the fourth question, what is your best resource? Whether that's a book, a movie, a YouTube video, maybe a piece of technology, or a podcast that you've found is helping your career right now?
So I wasn't sure how to answer this because I know that you're looking for a piece of media, and I don't really use any of those in regards to my career. But I would say that my best resource is, I would say that my best resource, as corny as it sounds, has been my own inner voice and intuition.
I love that. That's fantastic. And the fifth question. If you had to start your career from scratch, but you still had all the knowledge and experience you've collected from your career in this industry, what would you do or not do? Would you do anything differently, or would you keep it the same?
I would believe in myself. That was something I struggled with all my life, especially in my youth and even in my career. I always felt like I was an imposter, like I wasn't good enough. And every time I booked something, I was surprised. And I think that it's important to understand that other people's doubts, other people's fear, that's just a projection. That has nothing to do with you. And you have to find a way to just go within and believe in yourself. And that is a really important factor, an important key to being able to succeed. I really wish that I understood that better when I was younger.
Oh, that is such good advice for everyone listening out there. And the last question. What is the golden nugget knowledge drop you've learned from your successful career in this industry you'd like to leave with everyone?
If you're not enjoying what you're doing, what's the point? So that's why we become dancers, right? That's why, because we love it so much. So if you don't enjoy the job, like we talked about earlier, the scarcity complex thing, if you're not having fun, walk away. Your career is short, have fun with what you're doing. And if not, move on to the next thing.
Yeah, for sure. Because you're right. We all do enter this industry because we love it. And sometimes along the way, we get caught up in the hustle of it or the business of it. And we forget why we even began all of this in the first place. Besides the fact, that we're good at this. And we have to constantly remind ourselves that we do this because we love it. And to wrap up this interview, it is time to give yourself a plug. Where can we find you? How do our listeners connect with you? Is there anything you want to promote?
Yeah, come find me on YouTube. My channel name is Kelly O. I have quite a few Vegas videos, and a video that your listeners might find interesting is I made a video for advice for dancers, and it specifically targets dancers that are interested in working in Las Vegas. And I just go through all of my advice there. Also, I love helping people that are coming up in dance. I know that sounds really cheesy and I don't know what it is, but I get a lot of fulfillment out of helping people that have questions or just coming into the industry or just moving to Vegas. So you can always ask me a question on YouTube, send me a DM on Instagram. My Instagram is callme_Kelly_O. And I'll be happy to help you with anything because I've been doing this for a while. So let me know if I can help.
Brilliant. And for everyone listening out there, I have put the links to everything Kelly just said into the description of this episode so you can easily connect with her. Kelly, thank you so much for being here. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on today.
Thank you so much, Dane. This was really fun. And thank you for doing this. This is a great resource for people.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today. My one call to action for you is to go to youbookeditpodcast.com and join our free email community where we dig deep into a continually growing resource of truly actionable things you can be doing right now to help advance your entertainment career. Don't miss an episode. We have a new guest 7 days a week. Search for You Booked It on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app and subscribe today. All the best to you. We'll see you tomorrow.